kind of doing the same. Is that how you say that? Bonnaffons? Bonnaffons? So much about. So if you've not heard He Said, She Said.
Sure.
Hello! Welcome back to our channel. This is Shelf Possessed, and I am Craig. I am technically here alone today, so it's just me. Though David is here, he is behind the camera. There are his fingers. You'll see him in a special video later, kind of doing the same thing. But I thought I would come to you just by myself today because I have a very special video, which is book recommendations, but with a slight twist. So I love music. I am a music nerd through and through, and music kind of, informs every aspect of my life and has for a long time. And so I thought it would be a really interesting video to create a book recommendation video based on 10 of my favorite songs. So if you like this song, you'll like this book. If you like this book, maybe you'll like this song. So I crafted a playlist of 10 songs that kind of really mean something to me or that I really love, and then I listened to them thoroughly. I picked out 10 books that I thought would really match up with each of those songs. So I'm going to share those recommendations with you today and hope that you can find something new, something interesting, maybe something you didn't know about before, and maybe you'll find out some new songs that you didn't know before too. I've also created the playlist in Spotify, and I'll link that down below in the description box. So if you want to listen to the entire playlist, it'll be there for you to peruse and listen to. And then we'll also list all the books that I'm recommending today in the description as well. But before we kind of get deep into it, I hope that you'll like the video. I hope that you will subscribe and comment down below. Like, what are your favorite songs? Is there a favorite song that you have that kind of matches up with a favorite book that you have? What did you think of the songs that I chose, good or bad? And then what did you think of the book recommendations? We're going to do a few of these coming up in September, and then maybe one very special one for October as well. So, we're getting close. So yeah, let's just jump right into it and get started with my 10 books for 10 songs book recommendation video. All right, my first song is a classic love song, classic movie. It's In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel, which has very special meaning to me. When David and I first met, I would drive up to see him at his sister's house, and I remember one time I sat out in my car and turned up In Your Eyes as loud as possible and just stood outside and waited for him to come out. And when he did, there was a giant smile on his face, and I was smiling, and it reminds me of a lot of our kind of initial, dating a little bit. So I picked this song because I love it, first of all, and I could listen to it over and over again, but also it has special meaning. The song is kind of about falling in love and finding the one person that you're kind of destined to be with. So I picked a book that kind of deals with similar themes, but maybe puts a slight little twist on them. And that book is The Regrets. This book has, I should say, haunted me a little bit because I've wanted this book for so long. I bought it, and it kind of sat on our bookshelf for a long time. And then when I finally was able to pick it up, I was like, this is a perfect book to go with that song. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview as to what it's about. But it's about Rachel, who has been noticing the same young man sitting on a park bench near her home for a while. But he seems very off and very melancholy. She finally gets the courage to talk to him, but when she does, there's lots of chemistry, and she really identifies with him and kind of connects with him, but then finds out that he is actually dead. And he is a ghost that's kind of stuck in limbo. And what does it say? He's unable to cross over to the afterlife until he completes a 90-day stint on Earth, during which time he is forbidden to get involved with a member of the living, lest he incur regrets. When Thomas and Rachel break this rule, they encounter a cascade of troubling consequences. So it's about this young woman who kind of finds her soulmate or her connection in this dead young man and what kind of comes after that. So when I heard the song In Your Eyes, I really instantly thought of this because it's about connection that kind of can traverse, the moral coil, if you will. It's about connection that kind of extends past death. And for me, that's kind of what the song is. So my recommendation for In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel is The Regrets by Amy Bonnaffons. Check this out if you haven't. It will really, really make you smile and make your heart kind of blossom a little bit. So, number 1. So my next recommendation is a song that I don't think I'm ever going to get tired of. It's not that old, but I think I will probably be listening to it until I'm elderly, more than likely. And it is Caroline Polachek's So Hot, You're Hurting My Feelings. The title is perfect, right? Like, I'd never seen a title like that for a song before. And then when I listened to the song, I was like, this is a gorgeous song lyrically, but it's so much fun to listen to, and it just kind of captures you. And so I was thinking about the title and thinking about what the song was about, and it's about loving someone and like being close to someone who is like so attractive and so interesting and so charismatic that it just like hurts you on the inside. And so there's only one book I can really think of, and some may roll their eyes, but I really loved this book. I kind of tore through it, and so as cheesy as it might sound, this book really got me. And when I heard the song, I was like, this is the only book I could think of, and that's Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuinston. I love this book. The connection between these two characters is just so intense and so real, and you really fall in love with them as they're falling in love with each other. And they start off really not liking each other very much, but by the end, it's like clear that they are, destined to be together. So when I heard So Hot, You're Hurting My Feelings, I instantly thought of these two and was like, this is the perfect song to go with this book. And in fact, if I were to make an entire playlist that goes with this book, that song would be number 1. So for the song So Hot, You're Hurting My Feelings by Caroline Polachek, I'm recommending the book Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuinston. I think that it will match up perfectly, and if you love that song, I really think you'll love that book. And if you've already read this book and you love this book, listen to that song. I think you will find the connection is. All right, so the next song on my playlist is You Turn Me On, I'm a Radio by Joni Mitchell. Maybe an odd Joni Mitchell choice, but it is a song that makes me happy every time I hear it. It's a song that kind of lifts me up, even though it may not be about the happiest subject matter. Ultimately, for me, that song is kind of about always being there for someone, even if they're not the greatest choice for you, or always, being there for your chosen person, no matter what you kind of have to go through to get there. So to find a book that kind of felt like that song, I did have to do a little bit of digging, because it was like, so when I read this book, I went backwards and kind of looked through it again, and I thought, okay, this is maybe the perfect book for this song because of what the book is actually kind of about. So that book is Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessel, and this is a YA mystery thriller, kind of weird ethereal book that I really loved and kind of tore through and actually read because of David. David read it first and then told me to read it. So this book is ultimately about this young girl who's kind of caught in this loop because there are unresolved things that have happened in her life and unresolved things that she's had to kind of contend with. And ultimately it's about a lost love and how she can kind of resolve her feelings and how that kind of ended for her. I don't want to give too much away because it's the reveals in this book are stunning, and I think that you will really, really enjoy them, so I don't want to talk too much. But when I thought about You Turn Me On, I'm a Radio, I thought about this book because of what this character is trying to contend with and what she's trying to resolve. And she's haunted and always there for this lost love of hers. So for You Turn Me On, I'm a Radio by Joni Mitchell, I recommend Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessel. So my next song is Seven Wonders by Fleetwood Mac, which I guess in the last probably 10 years had got the most kind of airplay and fame from American Horror Story, Coven. That song has been with me since I was a kid. My parents loved Fleetwood Mac, and so we listened to them a lot growing up. And so I remember Seven Wonders, but then obviously American Horror Story kind of re-sparked my interest in it. And for me, it's really about finding beauty in all things in the world. Obviously, the title is referring to the Seven Wonders of the World, but for me, the song is about finding beauty in every part of your life and everything around you. And so I could only think of one book when I was trying to think of a recommendation for that song, and that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And if you've not read this, what have you been doing? Because everyone has read this book, and it has been all over Instagram, all over Booktube. It is a lovely, lovely book about a woman who is seeing her life unfold in a variety of ways and seeing what could have been and finding the beauty in even the most mundane things around her and being able to accept the life that she has versus the life that she thinks she would have wanted. And I think that this is a perfect recommendation for Seven Wonders. I think you will listen to the song and then you read this book and you will see instantly the connection between the two of them. And so for Seven Wonders by Fleetwood Mac, I recommend The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So my next song is the song 32 Flavors by Ani DeFranco. Probably more famously covered by Alana Davis in the late 90s. However, the original to me is tremendously better, and I am a huge Ani DeFranco fan. And so I was trying to think of a book that would really encapsulate kind of what that song is saying, and it's, I'm not all the things that you think I am. I am more than what you think I am, and I am more than anyone believes I am. And so there were lots of books that kind of came up, but I wanted to go with something that was maybe a little bit less traditional. And whereas the song is talking about being underestimating someone and maybe being deceived by what you think they are, I chose a book that does the same thing. So the book is not necessarily, the character is not necessarily the same as the character in the song, but I think the book does what that song is trying to say, and that is Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll. Maybe a little bit of a controversial choice. This is kind of a popular fiction, popular thriller, but the book is much more than what it seems to be. I actually thought that there was a lot of pathos in this book and a lot of really interesting kind of character study about trauma and what happens to people when they experience something really terrible in their youth, and that the character in here is actually much more than what we think she is. The book is actually much more than what you think it is. It kind of looks like a traditional, chick lit thriller, but ultimately I think that there's deeper themes here, and I think it goes perfectly with that song. The song's maybe a little bit more upbeat than the book is. I will tell you the book is maybe a bit of a downer, but also I think it's worth a read. So for 32 Flavors by Ani DeFranco, I recommend The Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll. All right, my next song is a much more recent pick. If you've visited my Instagram, you'll notice I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. I'm unabashedly coming out of the closet as a Taylor Swift fan. Even my students tend to laugh at me a little bit when I tell them that. But at this point in my life, I am not about having regrets about, liking something. So I'm a huge, huge Swiftie, as it turns out. And her most recent albums, I should say, Evermore and Folklore, really, helped get through the pandemic quite a bit. And I really enjoyed them a lot. And have listened to them so many times. There is one song specifically on Folklore that is called Invisible String that kind of breaks my heart a little bit because it makes me think of my husband and makes me think of, how much our fates kind of seem tied together. And the theme of the song is actually pretty clear when you listen to it. So choosing a book wasn't really hard, but I wanted to choose something that was maybe a little bit off the beaten path that I hadn't heard much about or heard many people talk about, and one that I kind of was looking forward to reading. And so I chose Much Ado About You by Samantha Young. So Much Ado About You is about a bookstore in the English countryside called Much Ado About Books. And it takes place during the holidays. It's about a young woman who takes a holiday in England and decides to take up a temporary position at this bookstore. And she meets a young man whose fate kind of seems tied to hers. And it's bookish, it's beautiful, it's romantic, it's kind of a little bit over the top, a little bit cheesy, but one that I think really, really fits with the song Invisible String. So if you liked Invisible String, I think you will also like Much Ado About You, and I think you should check it out. So my next recommendation is Much Ado About You for the song Invisible String by Taylor Swift. My next recommendation is by an artist that I will probably forever love and have loved. I apparently have a deep love and respect for female redheaded singer-songwriters, so you'll see that later on the list as well. But my next recommendation is the song Head Under Water by Jenny Lewis from her album The Voyager. If you're not familiar with Jenny Lewis, go back and watch any film from the 80s, and she's probably there. She makes a notorious, cameo on The Golden Girls, but she's a phenomenal singer-songwriter. She was in a band called Rilo Kiley and now does all of her own solo work, and she is just amazing. And the song Head Under Water kind of opens The Voyager, and the song is slightly more upbeat, but it's actually dealing with a lot of topics about what it feels like to be drowning and what it feels like to be, deep in some sort of depression and how you kind of come out of that. And when we did our surprise book recommendations for August, I gave David this book, We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. And because I knew I was going to pick it for this song, I wanted to see what he thought. And I think my suspicions were correct. He did like it. It was higher up on his list that month. And the book is definitely about loneliness and surrounding yourself with something that's going to help bring you out of that. There's a sense that this character is definitely very melancholy and depressed, and that I think in a lot of ways maybe her head does feel like it's underwater. So when I heard that song, I instantly thought of this book. So for Head Under Water by Jenny Lewis, I recommend We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. So my next song is What It Feels Like for a Girl by Madonna. Maybe not the most obvious Madonna choice. I do think that kind of, mid to late 90s to early 2000s Madonna era for me is one of the best. You're talking about, Ray of Light and Music and Confessions on a Dance Floor. Those albums to me are some of the best albums that she has created. And What It Feels Like for a Girl is a song that, while not super popular, has always stuck with me and kind of what it's saying and what it's about. And when I was trying to think of a book that would talk about some of the same topics, I couldn't come up with anything at first. So when I saw The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I thought this would be actually kind of perfect, because this is about a woman who everyone thinks that they know, but there's so much more to her, and there's so much more going on underneath the surface of this woman that everyone has, glamorized for years. And I don't think that anyone truly understands what it actually means to be her, what it feels like to be her. And that may feel like it's a little bit too on the nose for this book, but I do think that those themes run concurrently, right? The themes of the song and the themes of the book kind of mirror each other in a lot of ways. And while they're not by any means of the same era, I do think that song really fits well with what this book is also trying to say. So for What It Feels Like for a Girl by Madonna, my recommendation is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. All right, we've only got 2 left, and I've saved 2 of my favorites for the end. So my next recommendation is for the song He Said, She Said by Churches, which is a new song, just came out a few weeks ago. If you don't know Churches, check them out. I will recommend everything that they've ever put out. Even the things I don't like as much are still phenomenal. It's electronic, it's dark, it has a more modern twist on things that were being done by The Cure and Depeche Mode and Joy Division in the 80s. It's kind of like a modern distilling of those ideas. And this more recent song, He Said, She Said, is really about, in a lot of ways, is about Me Too. And it's about how men manipulate women and then what the expectations of women actually are. And so for that song, I picked They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This book surprised the absolute crap out of me. David read this book first and then told me I needed to read it and described it as female Dexter. And while it is that, yes, and there's some definite things happening in this book that I don't want to spoil for anyone, I think it goes perfectly along with the he said, she said themes in the song. The main character in this is really subverting expectations of what a female college professor should be, and does some things that kind of subvert, the entire genre of what the book is too. I think that this book is perfect in a lot of ways, and I really enjoyed it, and I don't know that it's getting enough praise for what it does, especially for the genre, because you don't see books like this very frequently, and I love what it's saying, and it's a perfect book now. It kind of takes on what we're experiencing in the world and turns it on its head, and really, really makes you think about, what's actually happening. The song does the same thing. If you've not heard He Said, She Said by Churches, you should check that out. And all of their albums. Their newest album, which is called Screen Violence, is like, every song is like a miniature horror film. You should check it out if you love that kind of music. But you should also read They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. It goes perfectly with that song. All right, my last book is here, and my last song recommendation is here. I don't know that we've talked about this on this channel very much because we haven't talked about music a lot, but there is only one artist for me, always and forever, that I am musically inclined to listen to no matter what. There will only be one artist for me for the rest of my life, and that artist is Tori Amos. I am a Tori-phile for sure, and I have read and watched and listened to everything that she has ever done, including both of her books. And so the very first song that really stuck in my brain by Tori was the song Little Earthquakes from the album Little Earthquakes. In the song she says, "Give me life, give me pain, give me myself again." And that is the first lyric that I ever heard that has stuck with me almost my entire life. And there was only one, when I thought about that song and I thought about that lyric, and then the song is about all of the little earthquakes that kind of tear us apart in life. I can only think of one book, the most depressing book I've ever read, but also one of the most beautiful books I've ever read, which is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I can't talk about this book without getting emotional, but this is a beautiful book. It's been all over the place. Everybody's read it. People know about it. People talk about it. I had a very different relationship with this book, especially when I thought about that song. The Give Me Life, Give Me Pain, Give Me Myself Again is this book, 100%. It is about overcoming traumatic events and pain and hurt, and how that can splinter and fracture the things around you. And the entire idea of Little Earthquakes is also this book. This book is underneath the surface of everything in this book is a little earthquake that's threatening to take everything down and take it all apart. So if you don't know the song Little Earthquakes, please listen to it. If you don't know the album, listen to it. If you don't know who Tori is, listen to Tori. You will be enthralled, I hope. But also, if you haven't read this yet, invest some time. It's a hefty book. It's 800 pages, but it's well worth the time and it's well worth the investment. And I hope that you will enjoy it if you haven't read it. So for Little Earthquakes by Tori Amos, I recommend A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. So that's it. 10 books, 10 songs. If you liked that song, check out this book. And if you like the book, listen to the song. I appreciate you coming and watching this and joining me, even though I'm just by myself today. As I said, later on in the month, you'll see a special video from David who kind of does his own twist on some book recommendations. And we hope to bring more of these to you in the future. If you want to hear the songs or you want to see the playlist, it's linked down below in the description. And if you haven't liked the video, go ahead and like the video. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified every time we upload new videos. And you can also check us out on our Instagram, which is shelf_possessed. I'll have David post screenshots of the stack of books and of the playlist so that you can kind of get a sense of it there as well. And come back next time where we have another special Q&A video for you. And I hope that you will join us. And I hope that you will come back and visit us again. And it was nice being with you, just me and you this time. But next time, I promise you, it will be both of us. We'll both be back. So thank you for coming, and it was great to see you. Bye.